You're listening to The Human Upgrade with Dave Asprey.
You've lived these fearful experiences. We'll talk about some of the other stuff you've done. But you've also looked at the neuropsychology and neuroscience of fear and all. And ultimately, what I learned in the temples in Nepal and Tibet and even some of the shamanic studies that I've done, it's that, well, ultimately all fear is just fear of death. It's fear of your meat dying. Do you believe that, given all you've experienced and all you know, or is there something else to the fear that we have?
I think if we dig deep into the evolutionary construct behind any kind of fear, that is what it sort of leads to, right? Because at the core, right, the brain is not concerned about our happiness and our well-being. This archaic caveman-like brain is concerned about our survival as its number one primary concern. So with that said, I think digging deep into the evolutionary construct of it, that is where it all leads to. But with that said, the fears will show up very differently. So as a very, very, very concrete example, like the other day I reached out and I asked this girl out. Like that to me was more scary than doing the things I do, which could literally kill me. I'm training to go to Antarctica and my friends find it hilarious. They're like, dude, you do the most insane things. You've spent 7 days in darkness. You run 24 hours. You're going to Antarctica, which could actually kill me. And I'm like, I got this. Asking a girl out on a date, terrified, anxiety, like butterflies in my stomach. You know what I mean? So, and I understand, like,
do you still have that?
I do. Like, I felt it when I reached out. Like, shooting a text message to a girl online is more scary. Like, I feel more fear than knowing that I'm about to go to Antarctica in 4 weeks. It's absurd. And at the core, again, is where do we? So if we dig deep into that fear, right? What is it? Fear of rejection, which could mean being ousted from the tribe, which in evolutionary times means we're death. Right. So at the core, that's what it leads to. But yet I'm on a very practical level. I'm less scared and it's not that I'm less scared of dying, but I'm more comfortable with the experience of death. I am terrified of dying, but that's a comfort that I have with playing on those edges. Whereas the sort of quote unquote normal mundane thing, it's more terrifying to me. If that makes sense, like the fear of death is at the core, but that doesn't mean it always shows up in that way. Right. Like the normal fears can be more scary, and it's going to be different to everybody. Other people will probably be much more terrified about going to war, or, you know, like if somebody said go to war tomorrow, I would be ready, like crushing it. I've got this, you know? So it shows up differently.
Most of the former soldiers I know would say the same thing. Like, you know, yes, it's scary, but there's something
it's very addictive.
And, you know, they'll you know, they know how to do it. It's kind of in their bones.
Absolutely. It's a very addictive and alluring experience, as messed up as that might sound.
There's at least in my world, fear starts inside the cells. There's a different consciousness, and this is, you know, subcellular psychology. There's a whole field emerging on that. And there's a part of your cells that says, oh my God, I'm just a cell and I'm part of this network of other cells. And eventually all of the cells kind of vote and you end up, oh, look, this big piece of meat flops around and does stuff. Right. And, you know, I'm not saying that's all we are, but I'm saying a major part of fear comes from that. I think the fear of asking women out is maybe or men, depending on, you know, whichever way you're going. The tough thing is not just, is my meat going to survive? For that F word, is the species going to survive? Because the dumb little, whether it's a bacteria or a lysosome, some little part of your thing that you don't even pay attention to, it is absolutely convinced that if you don't ask them out, or if you fail in asking them out, that the species will die. So it's not even about you. It's about the whole tribe is going to die if I just don't. And it's also the same reason that a lot of guys have ejaculation soon problems. Because like those little bacteria, like, yeah, you better get that thing pregnant right now.
Roger.
Right? And it's that whole fight against fear that drives a lot. So that might be the one time I would say fear isn't fear of you dying. It's fear of everyone dying because you don't have sex.
Yeah.
How dumb is that?
Perpetuation of the species. Yeah. And again, all reasonable fear. So it kind of makes sense in a way, right? So, and that's the key thing. Like even when I with the assessment of those fears, that's why I don't like the idea of irrational fears. All fears have their place. They show up for a reason. It's the assigning of a judgment around the fear that causes us more problems. Like I get terrified of this, that, and the other thing, and I could not care less when fear shows up. What matters to me is what I do with it once it does. And by kind of disidentifying from it as this thing that envelops me, or judging it as a irrational or rational or bad or good or anything of those sorts, I can let go of the construct I have around the fear, kind of accept it for what it is, and then choose what I want to do outside of it.